Just again, the sharing of the information with enrollment, what we talked about previously within the budget. We'll see 9/20 is the official count date. And at this point, we still don't have anybody that is virtual, correct?
Correct. We don't have.
Yeah, one possibility, but none. And so just again, back to that Form 150, instead of the weighted amount, you get $5,000 flat fee for the virtual student. And then we pay Greenbush an amount for them to take our virtual students. Because now we cannot have remote learning as far as a school district other than 40 total hours for the entire year. So, and then if we do go above that, the board has to approve it. Long story short, legislators want to basically say, hey, we want something, we're paying you, we want to see some type of education.
That's different than last year.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So.
Any questions on that? If not, we will move on to van bids.
We got nothing, but we got one late that came in. Checked with KSDE in regards to can you accept a late bid, if that's the only bid, probably be okay. And so, long story short, with that bid, we have pictures of the van, but we haven't seen it officially. So we don't want to accept it until we see it and go through it and see if it meets our specifications. So would ask that we tentatively accept the bid if it meets the district's specifications. So in other words, if it isn't what it says it is, we have issues with the van, we don't accept it. They're just really hard to find. And that one is a low mileage, 19,000 for that. It's a 8-passenger van. We want to make sure and check out all those things, but we didn't get anything on Suburbans or anything, and we're needing a van or a Suburban or something. So, but checked to the value of it, and it's within limits, $3,000 to $4,000 amounts as far as what the bid compared to if you just go online and check Kelly Blue Book or whatever, those kind of things. We don't know the specifics of it because we haven't seen it other than the pictures. So I want to have some flexibility to at least look at it, and if it meets the specifications, to move forward. But if it doesn't, we're not going to accept it.
I see it's 8 and you're kind of wanting a 10.
Really?
All right. Is that a holdout item?
Well, it's, according to the dealer, it can be upgraded to a 10. But we don't know that specifically until we actually look at the van, because the seat belts where they are determines if it can actually be up to a 10 passenger.
Sure.
And the pictures don't show that. The other thing that happens, and people will say, well, okay, because we've looked and we got from people, 15 passenger vans are out there. We can't use them. Community colleges and things like that can, but school districts cannot. Even though the dealerships are telling us, oh yeah, and even though some school districts drive them, it's illegal to have a 15-passenger van.
Is that federal?
No, I don't know if it's federal, but it's a state law. I believe it is a federal law too, because Keith Dreiling from State Department of Ed sent me the statute, but I believe it is federal and state.
So depending on where the seatbelts are located, it could be a 10-passenger? So they're not required for seatbelts in the...
No, they are, but where the seat belts actually, if the seat belts, if they have this, so in other words, if it upgrades to a 10-passenger, say it's here, this back seat, if they could put in another seat and it has belts that come out from the post, then we could do it. But if it doesn't, then no. Yeah, you're right. Would not. Yeah.
Right now, it's a walk-through bench seating in the back. Instead of bench seating, it's captain's chairs in the back, so they would take them out and drop a bench seat in. If there's enough seat belts, then it would be a 10.
Yeah,
So,
a way to upgrade them. So like I said, but because they're, of course, they're salesmen, but the fact of, hey, we're going to the auction, what are you willing to spend? I can't tell you, bid it. Then, because by law, we have to bid everything over 20,000. And so, well, we don't want to have it on the lot. I'm sorry, that's not, we're within the law to be able to, it's the only thing we can do. And so we did check with KSDE just to make sure that we were okay with that particular piece of it, being a late bid and that. But at the same time, like I said, if we have the money in the budget, if things look good and meets our specifications, possibility to move forward with it, versus, okay, well, we don't have anything again, and we're just at the will of when possibly we can get one. But if it doesn't meet any specifications, then we're not gonna get it.
Okay.
Is that fair?
That's understandable. I mean,
Okay.
you're gonna continue to look if this one doesn't work.
Right. Sure are.
And that's kind of the price point that you're thinking.
Yeah, and then if it doesn't work, then we'll have to re-spec and rebid again.
How do the bids work? Who do they all go to? I mean,
We sent them out, well, we being Michelle, sent them locally and sent them to Topeka, Junction City, Council Grove, Manhattan. She sent them all, Kansas City, she contacted Kansas City to see, so it was a pretty wide net.
It's another one of them things that's hard to find, used cars right now.
And 3 weeks ago,
Yeah, new too, right.
a couple of weeks ago, a week ago, they had 3 of them. And it's like, well, what do you want to spend? Well, I can't tell you that. We got to bid it. You bid it, and then, well, they're gone now. Okay. It is what it is.
But you don't want them on your lot.
Yeah.
They seem to be moving just
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. Anyway.
Okay, so if anybody else, or if nobody else has any more on that, I need to, that's an action item, so I need either a motion or not to approve.
I would move to approve, but based off of what Brad said, whether or not it meets our specifications. We leave it up to administration to figure that out.
I would second it. So it's been moved and seconded to let Brad look at the van and possibly, if it works for us, to buy it. Is there any discussion? If not,
we already had this.
I know it's still part of it. All those opposed, say aye. Motion passed. Okay, TransFinder.
This system is a software package. You can see the first year, $8,245 in year 1, and then after that, $4,350 for year 2. And would recommend that we utilize this software service.
I so move.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the TransFinder transportation software. All those opposed? Same sign, or say aye. Sorry. Moving on. All right, accept bid for mobile vehicle repair.
We had one bid, we sent same deal out locally to everybody, and had one bid. This is for remote services. In other words, to give you an example, first day of school, Michelle's first job, or first day as transportation, I get a phone call on the way to work, we got a flat tire. What do? So we start trying to contact people, can't get people, and how to get kids in, all that kind of stuff. And luckily, Nick, the person that truck triage, was able to help us out. And then they changed the flat, took the tire, did the whole thing, and got it all taken care of. And so that's when they would be doing that, or anytime we have a bus that's out, they can't get the bus into our service area, then we'd have them do it. But if we can get it in to S&S and or to another place, get it to Co-op to change a tire, whatever, we'll do that. But otherwise, we utilize Nick for his services. And he gives that response time of 20 minutes and possibly longer depending on where he's at. Because he runs things without out the interstate as well.
Is he local?
Yeah, he is
He's
local.
here on Elma?
Mhm.
I've noticed it's in Elma.
Yep. Mhm. Moved in and lives actually right over there on the corner.
Okay. And he was, yeah, that's the only bit, right?
Right.
And it's, like you said, first day of school, we were already,
He's got major diesel mechanic experience too. I
Mm.
mean, like MHC, Kenworth type mechanic experience.
right. Yeah, I was, is this a year? What is this? What is his contract?
A year.
A year, okay. Okay,
I move to accept the bid for the mobile vehicle repair.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to accept the mobile vehicle repair. All those opposed, say aye. Motion passed. Let's go back here. Okay. I move to go into executive session to discuss confidential data, right?
You got one more.
On Board of Education
Yeah.
goals. It was a little bit on Lucas.
That's okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to. Board of Education goals.
Just information, we're focusing on the literacy, implementation of the multi-tiered systems of support, the MTSS, through the Kansas State Department of Ed. Continuing with the Leader in Me for social emotional learning. And a piece of that is that weekly, our administration will be performing at least 2 classroom walkthroughs to go through classrooms and being visible within that. But those are the preliminary ones. The board is by policy to set annual goals. So those are the ones that we will focus on. And I included some other things that we looked at specifically about capital outlay and some other things. But those are the ones that we're really looking to be specific in.
Was the standard of the 2 classroom walkthroughs a week, has that been what we've been doing, or is this new?
It's new as far as they're involved in classrooms a lot, but this is specific that you,
Have to do it?
yep,
Okay. I didn't know if
Yeah.
I thought I'd heard that before, so.
yep.
Okay. Anybody else, any questions on that? Okay.
Appreciate what you do. Thanks for setting these goals and making them a priority. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Now we'll move on to I move that we go into executive session to discuss confidential data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships. How much you need?
10 minutes.
And the board meeting will resume at 6:58. It's been moved and seconded. All those opposed, say aye. Passed. Moving on, investment grade audit.
The official numbers came back after getting all of their information together, and there is a pro forma sheet that shows $429,520 of equipment and services. Then it has to still go to the FCIP through Kansas State for the edits and approvals, but it should pretty much be completed. That basically is a 10-year lease purchase agreement, pays for itself in energy savings. Initially, we were gonna have to pay $184,000. It went down to $100,000, and now, after re-looking at it again, it went down to $0. So the operations and maintenance piece would not cost the district anything. We'd have to pay $14,136 for the FCIP to oversee it over the 10 years, which we could take from capital outlay. But the project will pay for itself in energy savings. So it's a true win-win, and we get all those things done. The HVAC systems, the retrofitting of HVACs, the air handler units, starting those process, LEDs, and then also the building envelope. So I would think that that'd be something that we talked about. I mean, initially we approved it last month to go to this and start it, and now this is the official action. And the construction on their chart would start October 25th with final completion May 28th of this year.
February
February, what did I say?
May.
You said
Yeah.
that.
February
Yeah,
28th,
Good
2022.
Good year. Anybody got any questions, comments, concerns?
Move, we proceed.
I second.
Been moved and seconded. All those opposed, say aye. Motion passed. Okay. COVID reopening plan, again.
Okay, and Ray Finley's zoomed in if we need it as well.
Okay.
I asked that this get added to the agenda, because I think it really probably should be a ongoing discussion since it's an ongoing pandemic. So I just wanted to ask some questions about the reopening plan. I was asked questions from teachers and parents. I want to make sure I understand it correctly, because there's some information that's not included, but I don't want to make assumptions either. So in the plan itself, we don't talk about any spacing requirements, so we're not requiring any spacing between students, okay? And then if a close contact that we have comes back with, or if someone is in close contact with a positive case, and they do the test for the daily test that they do, and that test come back negative, do we require that individual to wear a mask, or is that up to Ray? What happens in that case?
No, they don't have to wear a mask.
They're not
Didn't that
required.
just change vaccinated to unvaccinated though? Didn't she just send something out, Sherman? I thought there was she just, in the last 2 weeks, I thought I seen an email come through where there was something about that.
Yeah,
Vaccinated to unvaccinated.
Yeah, that, yeah, we made
Remember?
they still had to be tested,
Right,
but not masked.
okay.
Okay, so there's no requirement for the student that was a close contact to still wear a mask,
Correct.
Okay.
As long as they test negative.
as long as they test negative.
Yeah, when they come
Or
here,
if they test positive, they have to isolate, right?
when they test positive, they go to Ray.
Oh, they go to work, okay.
Yeah, and they handle the isolation.
Okay.
And when they come and test, then they have masks on when they come to be tested.
Alright. Let's see what other questions I So, just to be clear on the quarantine options, in order for a student to remain in in-person learning, where there would be no isolation necessary, they could still come to school regularly. They would have-
Quarantine, because isolation is positive case.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
In-person learning, but still considered
Right,
quarantine
they-
after a positive case.
Well, if you're a positive case, you have to be isolated,
Okay, so I'll put it this
so they won't be here. So,
If
not
a
being in
student-
school.
If a student comes in contact with a known positive case, they'd be a close contact, and they wanted to remain in student learning,
mhm,
a way to do that would be if prior they had been vaccinated,
correct,
they could still remain.
correct.
Or if their child was wearing a mask throughout the school period, school hours, they could still remain if they come in close contact. So if a student wears a mask to school all the time, they can remain in class learning even after a close case. Or if they've been vaccinated, if they have the ability to be vaccinated.
I thought those were.
We changed the, if vaccinated, no quarantine necessary. If we're in a mask, no quarantine necessary.
No isolation, because there'd still be a quarantine period.
No, it's no quarantine,
Yeah.
not isolation.
Isolation is for a positive COVID case.
Correct.
Well, you're still technically like in quarantine if you've been in close contact.
Yeah,
Well, if you were wearing a mask.
Or if you opt into the testing.
I didn't think the testing was, if you opt into the testing and you are a close contact,
You test every day.
you just test every day.
You test every day.
Okay.
Until 10 days is up.
Yep.
And if all of them are negative, you get to stay in school.
Correct.
When they come positive, it goes to Ray. Ray isolates you because you're a positive case.
Okay, so there's not a requirement to wear a mask. I guess that's where I heard concerns. I think the concerns are justified. because-
What are the concerns? Can you explain that to me?
So if you're a close contact, so if someone were to come in contact with me and they were a positive case, and I would be considered a close contact to that individual, state and federal government have guidelines in place that say you need to start testing after 5 days after you've been in close contact. And they give a 5-day period because during those initial few days, you can still test negative but be positive because the virus hasn't, you haven't gotten full antibodies built up. Virus can still be in your body. You're not shedding the virus. You're not going to draw. It won't draw, or you won't notice a swab. So during that first 5-day period, you can be positive. You can have the virus, but still show up negative. So I guess the concern of teachers, parents that I've talked to is, if that's possible, shouldn't those students probably be wearing masks in the event that they are positive but don't show up positive until 5 days out?
Brad, I thought while they were testing, they had to wear a mask for those 10 days. Is that not? I thought that was in there, that while they were testing, they had to wear a mask for those 10 days.
no,
That's not the way it reads.
no.
So I guess maybe at a following meeting we can.
I'll still vote no.
That's
I love the plan.
I do too.
Look at the results of the
If you
plan.
wanted to change it, you had your opportunity to change it when he brought it to us.
I-
And you didn't.
I
You voted.
understand, but I learn something new every day, and I learn from our teachers, I learn from our staff, I learn from our parents, I learn from the CDC.
But for some reason, you don't learn from our leaders within our district who are telling you they like the plan and they are supportive of the plan and they don't want to change the plan. So why do you work so hard to go outside and find somebody that disagrees with our superintendent just so you can come to a meeting and argue with him in a public forum? Why do you work so hard at it?
I think the results that we have speak for themselves.
We have, the county is at 11 right now. The county is at 11 cases. Where I'm at, does anybody else have anything before I start this? Where I'm at right now, the county's at 11 cases. We've had 2 + 1 staff that we know of at this point in time, correct, Brad?
The big picture, she's tested 103 tests for students, have tested 50 times for our staff. We have had 2 quarantined students, 1 staff quarantined, 2 positive cases of students, 1 positive case for staff this year.
Were the 2 students related, or were they 2 separate incidences? Were they at the same contact? Do we know that?
Don't know that.
Okay. Doesn't matter. There was 2. And they were part of a team. They tested. It worked. The plan worked to a T, to the point that others are wanting to use it. Ray's asking, hey, can I send this to Mission Valley because they need something like this? To the point that there's other school districts that have now picked this up, not just in our little area. The other thing that really frustrates me is this was an action item last time. We don't go back. We move on as a board. We approved it as a board. We move on. This would be no different than if we fired a teacher last week, we bring it back up this week. It's the exact same thing. We move on as a board. If you want to address this, there is something called the superintendent's forum at the end. You can ask your questions then. We only have so much time in a meeting. And does a great job of trying to maximize the time that we have. Brad's done an excellent job, and so has the rest of our administration for that fact, because I know the high school had to do this testing, and Charlotte as well. It worked, and it worked to a T.
I'll just
Yep.
say something.
Have any of the tests of close contacts come back positive?
No.
There's your answer. We've tested 153 times, and not one test has come back positive from shedding the virus in your 5-day period. How much more proof do you need? Why aren't you wearing a mask now? You could have the virus. You could be spreading it to us. Why don't you have one? Why don't you and your family wear one when you're in church?
Can I respond to your question? Everyone in this room has the ability to be vaccinated.
You're making a
What's
good
that
argument. Good job.
What's that have to do with wearing your mask?
Because
Because
you
of
can make your choice. That's all I'm saying. Everyone can make their own choice in this room. Our kids that are younger than 12-year-old can't make their own choice,
Are they in danger?
potentially,
How do you know?
because we're in a pandemic.
They're not a pandemic.
So in 2 years, we've had 12 kids in the state of Kansas. 12 in 2 years. How many suicides have we had this year, Brad? If you want an issue to save kids, why don't you work on their mental health?
I think he is working on the mental health, trying to push masks.
I want kids to stay in school. I want our kids to stay healthy. That's my
And
concern.
I think our plan is keeping them in school. We've had 2 kids out of school with COVID, correct?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
that was, yes, and that was my point, was it's worked. Because
Thank
the
you.
close contacts did not test positive.
Just to the point real quick on why I bring it up in meetings. I bring it up in meetings because I see it as a health issue for kids. That's why I bring it up in meetings.
You're very virtuous.
And that's why I will continue to bring it up in meetings.
So are we gonna bring up every health issue for kids?
If it's in general pandemic, I would hope so.
Real ones?
Because they're down this week. You know that countywide, we're down this week. Okay. Anyone else? Personnel.
Okay.
Do you have anything?
Very good
Anybody
question.
have anything in personnel they want to go into executive session before we start this? Okay. Go ahead, Brad, sorry.
Like Ray, and so
No,
we don't need him for anything, right?
okay,
Okay.
we're moving on.
We're on employment now then, Tony?
Yes, we're on personnel. Is there anything to add to this, Brad?
Just want to make sure that you have
The
Lydia
volunteers.
and, yeah, and driver's ed.
Okay. Is Deb one of the volunteers? Is that one?
We already did
Okay.
volunteers, that was part of the consent.
Correct.
Oh, sure.
So I can just go off
Say
this.
the move, yeah.
So if someone wants to,
I move to approve the employment as submitted as Gary Blanton, Maintenance Director, Valerie Phillips, Emergency Sub, Richard Philbrook, Substitute Teacher, Isaac Peterson, Substitute Bus Driver, Steve Reeves, Junior High Football Coach, the supplemental list as provided, Joni Dahl, Substitute Teacher, Lance Fuller, High School Driver's Ed, Linda Drennan, Substitute Cook, also, out there, right?
the
I
resignation.
would also accept the resignation of Brian Boucher as the driver's ed teacher and approve the transfer of duties for Michelle Garrett as transportation director.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. The only discussion that I would have was Brian Boucher's retirement. That's been a lot of years of service to our district, and I think there's several of us in here that seen him behind the wheel with us doing driver's ed. And we can't overstate how much we appreciate his years of service to the district.
Absolutely, thank you.
So, all those opposed, say aye. All right, motion passed. All right. Superintendent's board members forum.
Just the information FYI, KDOT, we had applied for a Safe Route to Schools grant, and that grant approval to begin surveying, the board agreed to the $3,000 obligation. That $3,000 obligation is now being paid for by the Greater Manhattan Community Foundation. And so that's for sidewalks and those type of things in Paxico.
Now, if I understand that, is that for the planning or is that for the
Planning.
project?
Planning.
Okay, just for the planning portion of it.
Correct.
Okay.
And we're waiting for KDOT to get us the information so that then we can go ahead and put it out to bid for services.
That's pretty cool that they stepped up and did that one.
Yeah.
Really appreciate them doing
Yeah.
that. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. Justin?
I might bounce this off Dawn too, but I was just curious about the electrical issue from the city. I know we've had some lights issues and some lights burn out
Yeah.
because of the shorting to the city, and I know we just approved a performance energy audit that's gonna come in and put brand new lights and stuff in, and I would hate to see that stuff have issues. Just curious if the city's figured anything out or
In talking
started
to,
or.
yeah, but I don't think so. In talking to Michael, Michael said that they have hired an engineer to come in and backtrack and look at everything, because they couldn't figure it out either. Other than our gym looked like the 60s and psychedelic.
Obviously, I appreciate Michael and everything the city does for us, and I don't mean any ill will towards the
Correct.
city in bringing this up, but I believe that some of the confusion going around town is a little bit that it's our issue and our lack of taking care of our facilities, and I just want to make sure publicly that people know that this was not our issue, and so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it hit the manor too. Because he went to Saturday during that tournament, he went to the manor and then came to the high school.
That's all I had, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Kelly? Dawn? Jim?
I want to reiterate what you said with Brian Shea. He was an excellent teacher behind the wheel, and for all his years of service, it's really just amazing that he was willing to provide that for us. So I really appreciate that. I also really appreciate and will continue, throughout this year and support our teachers. They're the crux of the education that we provide. They're really responsible for providing the great education that our kids get, and so much should be commended to them for all their efforts. So, commend their efforts. So, anyways,
So, move to adjourn.
That's the move.
Second.
Justin, Dawn. It's been moved and adjourned. All those opposed, say aye. Motion passed. Meeting is adjourned. Let's get your cards.
And your yearbooks.
And your earbuds. Yep.
Thanks for providing it.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm gonna feel hurt if I'm not asked to sign it. Tell you, yeah, I know. My age. My age. Back in the day, that was the thing. Just saying.
Not in our day. We didn't sign them at all in our day.